Hello friends, a big loving welcome to our very own channel, Ammu and You, where I, Ammu, is ever so happy to narrate stories to you. As you all would be knowing, I simply love reading stories and narrating them as well. And I like venturing into new types of stories too. Storytelling is immensely satisfying, and especially if the stories are of various hues and shades. Today, I have a very, very beautiful story, a very well crafted story that tells us about the consequences of war, a very, very heart touching story on the aftermaths of war. It is the story The Sniper, written by Liam O. Flaherty. It is an extremely tightly written and very, very gripping story that tells us about the incident that took place in Dublin. The story narrates the experiences of one of the snipers who is not only dedicated to his cause but is also a crack shot with his gun. What he does not realize till it is too late is that violence can be self-consuming. There is an eternal message that filters through this wonderfully crafted story. War has no benefits whatsoever. So, here is the story of the sniper. On a rooftop, a Republican sniper lay watching. His face was thin and serious, but his eyes had the cold gleam of the fanatic. They were deep and thoughtful, the eyes of a man who is used to looking at death. He was eating a sandwich hungrily. He then, taking a flask of whiskey from his pocket, took a short draught. Then he considered taking the risk of a smoke. The flash might be seen in the darkness, and there were enemies watching. He decided to take the risk. Placing the cigarette between his lips, he struck a match, lit the cigarette hurriedly, and put out the light. Almost immediately, a bullet flattened itself against the parapet of the roof. Cautiously, he raised himself and peered over the parapet. There was a flash and a bullet whizzed over his head. He dropped immediately. He had seen the flash. It came from the opposite side of the street. He rolled over the roof to a row of chimney pots and slowly drew himself up behind until his eyes were leveled with the top of the parapet. There was nothing to be seen. His enemy was well concealed. Just then, an armored car came across the bridge and slowly advanced up the street. It stopped on the opposite side of the street. It was an enemy car. The sniper's heart beat faster. He wanted to fire, but it was useless. His bullets would never pierce the steel that covered the gray monster. Then round the corner of a side street came a woman. She looked around cautiously and then began to talk to the man in the car. After a short conversation and taking a bag that was offered to her, She pointed to the roof where the sniper lay. An informer. The man looked up. The sniper raised his rifle and fired. The woman darted towards the side street, but then whirled around and fell down with a shriek. Suddenly, from the opposite roof, a shot rang out, and the sniper dropped his rifle with a curse. The rifle clattered to the roof. Someone had been watching him. The sniper thought the noise would wake the dead. He stooped to lift it, but couldn't. He was hit, and he was hit badly in his arm. He crawled back to the parapet. The blood was oozing through the sleeve of his coat. There was no pain, just a deadened feeling as if the arm had been cut off. He then took out his first aid box from his bag. He opened the iodine bottle and let the liquid drip into the wound. A violent fit of pain swept through him. He pulled out the bullet with his fingers as he ground his teeth to overcome the searing pain that shot through his whole body. He then placed the cotton pad over the wound and wrapped the bandage carefully, tying the ends with his teeth. In the street beneath, all was still. The armored car had retired speedily over the bridge with the head hanging in front of the man who was hit by the sniper's bullet. The woman's corpse lay still on the street too, unclaimed. The sniper lay still for a long time, planning his escape. The enemy on the opposite roof had made escape impossible. He had to kill that enemy, but he could not use his rifle to do so. One of his arms was injured. He couldn't hold the rifle anymore. He only had a revolver, and he thought of a plan. Taking off his cap, he placed it over the muzzle of his rifle. Then he pushed the rifle slowly upward until the cap was visible from the opposite side of the street. Almost immediately, there was a shot, and a bullet pierced the center of the cap. The sniper slanted the rifle forward. The cap slipped down the street. Then, catching the rifle in the middle, the sniper let his left hand drop to the street. Then he sank to the roof, dragging his hand with him. Crawling quickly to the left, he peered up at the corner of the roof. His trick had succeeded. The other sniper, seeing the cap and the rifle fall, thought he had killed his man. He was now standing in the open, looking across with his head outlined against the western sky. He smiled to himself at his success of having killed his enemy. The Republican sniper smiled as he lifted his revolver above the edge of the parapet. The distance was about 50 yards. A hand shot in the dim light, and his right arm was paining him like 1,000 devils. He took a steady aim. His hand trembled with eagerness. Pressing his lips together, he took a deep breath and fired. He was almost deafened with the noise, and his arm shook with the recoil. Then, when the smoke cleared, the sniper peered across and uttered a cry of joy. His enemy had been hit. He was swaying unsteadily over the parapet in his death agony. He struggled to keep his feet, but he was slowly falling forward as if in a dream. The rifle fell from his grasp, hit the parapet, fell over, bounced off the pole of the barber's shop, and clattered on the pavement. Then the dying man on the roof crumpled up and fell forward. The body turned over and over in space and hit the ground with a dull thud. There it lay, still. The sniper looked at his enemy falling and shuddered. The lust of battle died in him. He was filled with remorse. The sweat stood out in beads on his forehead. The sight of a man dying in front of him did something to his heart. Weakened by the wound and the long summer day of fasting, he felt sick at the sight of the shattered body of his dead enemy. His teeth chattered. He began to mutter senselessly to himself, cursing the war, cursing himself, cursing everybody. Taking his whiskey from his pocket, he emptied it at a draught. He felt reckless under the influence of the Spirit. The heaviness of his heart was somewhat settling. Everywhere around was quiet. The sound, the silence of death. There was not much danger in going through the streets, he thought. He picked up his revolver and put it in his pocket. Then he crawled down to the house underneath. When the sniper reached the street, he felt a sudden curiosity as to the identity of the enemy sniper, whom he had so cleverly killed. He admitted he was a good shot, whoever he was. He wondered if he knew him. Perhaps he had been in his own company before the split in the army. He decided to risk going over to have a look at him. The sniper darted across the street. A machine gun tore up the ground around him with a hail of bullets. The guns never seemed to stop. They seemed to be everywhere, all around, watching everything. But He escaped. He threw himself downward beside the corpse. The machine gun stopped, probably thinking that it had hit the man. Then the sniper turned over the dead body and looked into his brother's eyes, on his brother's face. He just froze without even knowing, involuntarily. He picked up his gun and aimed at his own self. How terrible are the consequences of war, if only man can think about them. Matters definitely can be resolved in other, better ways. War is and should never be an answer to any problem. It has never ever shown any mercy or any benefits to anyone. Friends, I hope you've liked the story. If you have, please like, share, subscribe, press the bell icon. And thank you so much for your continuous support and love and encouragement. I would soon see you again with another story to narrate to you. Stay safe, stay happy, bye-bye, and thank you for watching and listening to this story. Bye-bye.